I am in northeastern Michigan with this 1960 Chevrolet El Camino. Of course it doesn't run and it's been off the road for 15 years. I've got a Harbor Freight toolkit in just 3 days to not only get this thing going, but drive nearly 700 miles back home to Tennessee. But wait, there's more. My wife, she hates El Caminos. So if I do manage to get it home, she might just turn me right back around. Great. I can't cook. I want to say thank you to Rich really quick, the previous owner. He stored it for me for almost a year, actually. And he found this rig down in Kansas in 2005, went down with a buddy and grabbed it, tinkered on it a little bit, but it's basically just sat here. What really just drew me in on this is it's got a 327 flavor engine, supposedly. We'll verify that pretty soon. And it's got a manual transmission with a 38-foot tall stick shift. Other than that, I really don't know anything about it. So we'll just walk around and see what we got going on. These El Caminos were produced by Chevrolet from 1959 to 1960. That was the first gen. And then 1964 to 1987. And the first generations, these here are really popular, known for their bat wing rear here. And then of course the 69 to 72s are really popular. They look like the Malibus, basically. But there's been a long-standing argument since 1959. Is this a car or is this a truck? You guys go ahead and bleep bloop down below in the comments what you think. I'm genuinely curious what the consensus is. Chevrolet calls it a coupe utility. Doesn't really give us an answer whether this is a car or a truck. It was basically adopted from a station wagon, and they just hacked her off here. These were not that successful, but it did prompt Ford into making the Ranchero, which they basically did the same thing as well and copied Chevrolet here. This one appears to have quite a bit of rust, but you know what? These flames look realistic. I mean, hotter than noon on the 4th of July. Look at this. Oh, pretty snazzy. Rockers are just, well, they're shot. Good news is though, the quarter panels are worse. You know, they're kind of taking their own shape back here, and we can literally see it just falling on the ground and disappearing. That's fine. A little bit of weight reduction doesn't hurt. I think those are Cadillac taillights. Oh, they even got the little gem doohickeys. Oh, okay, we'll pretend we didn't see that, I guess. It's got a Nebraska commercial truck plate, you know, good to go. Got some pretty cool spider webbage, pin stripage stuff going on there. This side, yep, just as worser, basically. But I'm ignoring all the rust because we've got 14-inch legitimate Gregors, not knockoffs. These are the real deals. All the way around this bad boy. It's pretty cool. Glass is in good shape, or appears to be. Don't see any big cracks there. Oh, there's a crack. Shoot. Those aren't cheap. And the back glass, looking pretty snazzy. Someone really just, you know, made sure it didn't leak. Look at all this glue and putty and whatever. But this is exactly what happens, is leaves and pine needles and whatever else set down in here, and it rots all of this around. And then what ends up happening on the inside of the cab is the seam where the floor meets the back wall. I bet we're gonna see that rotted too. And we got, oh yeah, look at this. Those are bedside replacement panels. I'll be diffed. Came right with the rig. The box, you know, it's not the best, but it's there. I have seen a lot worse, I'm gonna be honest. What kind of a thing? Okay, got a lot of trees around these parts. Thankfully, these drain holes weren't plugged up in this rig. A little bit rust right there, but I think most of it drained pretty good. Not one, but 3 spares. Flat, flat, and flat, so that's good. You know, can't use those, so that's fine. The flamage goes all the way up here. That's pretty hot rod, not gonna lie. Well, let's pop this thing open and see what we got on the inside. Oh, I like this. Zip tie it on. Well, let's crack this coffin open and see what we got going on. I can already tell she's moist in there. Oh yeah, it's thick. It's very much a buffalo hide and wet tumbleweeds, but wait until you see this floor. Not only is it approved, but it is majestic. Ooh, we got parts in here? I think we do. All I can think about right now is how amazing this floor is. And let's go ahead and forget the fact that there's probably absolutely nothing below it, but it was done right. I mean, I wouldn't change a single thing. Look at the seat. I mean, other than it's really very gross feeling, it looks like there's no tears in it. Oh, gee, dipped. We got shifter. That's gonna be, yeah, well, it'll work. It's probably a 3-sped. Came off the tree, you know, fell to the ground down here. What do we got here? What is this? We got, oh boy, great. Wiring diagrams. Oh, that's gonna be a mess. Ooh, we got lightning hose holders. Miscellaneous bolts and stuff missing. Some sort of Wix filter. Whole bag of fuses. There's some hints. So probably gonna say we got some electro-digital problems. Looking like probably brake lights. Parking lights. So probably brakes and tails. That's great. 60 El Camino stuff. Man, this guy was organized. It's kind of making me nervous. We got ball joints. We got ball joints in here. All sorts of parts. Oh, fuel pump make it happener. Another fuel pump make it happener. What is going on? We got oil seals. Those look like axle seals. Some fuel line. We got some brake hoses. Ah, the fuel filters that start more fires than ex-wives, and that one was plugged solid. So there's a good clue. The fuel tank in this is probably just buggered up. Great. Hey, this is pretty cool. Pinstriping continues on the inside. And it looks like they figured it out outside and then did a more gooder job inside. So that makes sense. I'm gonna say that there's not a lot of contents in the glove box. Doesn't look like, but we do have 2 cup holders. That's good. That's good. That's good. Still got the rear view mirror. No door panels, but it still has the closer upper. We got a custom provision for 1 6x9. You don't need 2. It's too loud, fellers. Just get the 1 over here, okay? Oh, this does move. Slide this up. Oh, great. Oh, there we go. Ooh, that's a factory option. That's called a back vent, fellers. You're going down the highway, you get fresh air circulating in here. Keeps the back crack waterfalls from going on over there. This is what I was talking about earlier. Very, very, very common. Unfortunately, this thing is just a rot bucket. I mean, it's I don't even know what that is. It's not even metal, but it's glued into the floor back here. Some other kind of tin there, HVAC stuff or something. I'm not sure, but body by Fisher, so it's fine. Winder goes up and down. Look at that. So that's good. Got dome lightage without the bulb. Let's sneak around to the other side, see what the controls are doing. Okay, let me just slide in here. Oh, don't fit very good. Here we go. Wiper button seems to have an issue, and you know, we don't need that, it doesn't look like. Oh, that's on the inside. Okay, we've got an aftermarket oil pressure gauge. That could be good or bad. Temp gauge is still in it. Oh, we've also got a aftermarket's, you know, battery gauge over here. Radio's still in it. Straight line tuning. I'll be dipped. No key, that's fine. Oh, it just turns without it. Well, okay. Well, that's how you steal this one. You don't need nothing. She's a 3-pedal variety, and this one's way up here. I don't even know how a guy gets this. Oh, you gotta bring your leg up past the steering wheel. Interesting. Fin tag still on it. That's kind of nice. So it was this nice color originally, and then I don't know, at some point it just got, you know, flat black. We got 68,943, and I'm gonna say that's 1,068,943 by the looks of everything else in this rig. That seems to work. Oh wow, that works. Really nice, actually. Ignore the Scotch tape. Oh, I already broke it. Oh, that's not even glass. This doesn't work. That seems to work. Okay, well, the rig is basically brand new. So let's pop the power barn, see what we got going on under there. Looks like someone went to grinding on her, just in very random spots, probably testing it out, and then realized the old rig needs 14 of everything and probably shut it down. Grill's also missing, got some homemade bracketry, and then an entire set of headlights is also gone. I believe there's supposed to be 2 on each side, but that's why you started with 4. You don't need all of them. All right, opens surprisingly well. Okay, yeah, all right. Well, by gosh, I think it's looking complete. We might just have a shot here. In fact, I'm seeing a couple new pieces here and there. I'll bring you in. A few things jumped right out at a guy. One is the ram's head exhaust manifold. That used to be a performance trick back in the day before they had headers and stuff like that for some applications. Old timers figured out that these ram's head actually flowed a lot better than the kinds that go back and collect in the back. We've got nice script valve covers on there. We got an Edelbrock fuel make it happener, and that's 1405, so that's going to be a 600 CFM, which has a 0.1 primary, and then it's got a Manuel choke. It's not hooked up right now. Oh, it's even got an Edelbrock intake. Tricked on a guy for a second, you know, because they So it looks like the top half's been rebuilt. By rebuilt, I mean Craigslist rebuilt. We got a new fuel pump make it happener down there, that's kind of odd because there's 2 in the truck. This has been replaced with the right filter. Wicks, nice, don't have to do that. Got a fuel pressure regulator on here. Just a reminder, fellers, 1 doesn't mean 1 pound and 2 doesn't mean 2 and so on. That's just a setting. You really got to have some sort of gauge behind here so you can see what you're dialing this thing into. And also a warning on these, if you go to 5 and then back to 2, she's probably stuck to 5. They're not quite the best, but they'll get you home in a jam. We got some newer looking lightning hoses. Oh, I take that back. That's a burn. Yeah, that's a burn. So these are probably shot, at least one of them. I don't have an extra one. I flew in, so I had to literally just get stuff here while I was here. What is this? It's all over the place. Huh. We got an Cell Super Stocks lightning can back there. That looks pretty cool. Running the original generator. Belt's pretty cruddy, but should maybe hold in there. Fan clutch is pretty decent. That's been replaced on. I don't know. I mean, oh boy. Okay, we'll just put that back on. Pretend we didn't see that. Brakes look, you know, isn't that them Willwoods? No, that's a real wood brake master cylinder there. So I mean, we've definitely got something to work with here. I think we're going to switch gears here for a minute. Since I've still got 700 miles to drive, I've got to be a little bit, you know, mindful of my time. Rich was kind enough to let me send tires ahead of me, so those are here right now, because whether or not I get this thing running, I still have to do something with it, and these tires are absolutely rotten. Now, by buying them ahead of time, not only did I save a bunch of time from driving around all over the place trying to find someone that carries 14s, which, nope, that's not going to happen. I also saved a lot of money. So what I'm going to do quick is just jack this thing up, get her on some jack stands, bust these tires and wheels off, throw them in the rental, run down to the tire shop and get those guys working on that. Then we can come back and start tinkering around on the engine here, see if we can get that thing to fire off. Massive timing cover leak. We'll go ahead and ignore that as well. Right after I got off the plane, I grabbed a rental, went straight to Harbor Freight, grabbed a jack stands, one of their master toolkits, swung by O'Reilly's and grabbed some basics. That's pretty much what we're working with today. There is a couple parts stores about 15-20 miles from here, but I'm really doubting they're gonna have anything for this rig. Oh, that's all the lift you get out of these? Really? Huh. Well, the exhaust looks exhausty. We've got dual pipelators with gyps. I just can't believe it. This thing probably sounds pretty crackly. Probably pretty neat, actually. Oh, that was locked up there. She's been sitting right here for a while. Sure feels like I'm counting my calves early, but if I get this thing running and it's 7 o'clock at night and we don't have good tires on it, then I'm dinking around tomorrow morning when I should be driving, trying to get tires on. So hopefully this works out. Why do I always grab the wrong socket? I don't know. These are the unit lug Kragers, and I really don't like them because they never seat on right. Seems like you always get vibration no matter what you do. Hope this wheel cylinder isn't stuck up here. It's really dragging. Well, I got them all busted off. I was sitting here looking. The frame looks actually really solid around the whole rig, which is great. I got a little bit nervous with how much body rust there is, but frame's looking pretty decent. And some feller at some point ran a new brake line back here. Probably the each wheel, actually. Yeah, looks like the each wheel in the rear. So that's good. That's already done. Not even gonna pull that off, because then you open a can of worms, you know. We're just gonna say it's good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and just run down to the tire store. I got them loaded up in the rental here, and get these. What did I buy? Master Crafts. Yeah, Avengers. Used those before. Got them on the Evil Bay. They're pretty cheap. Once I get these tires back, then I can return this truck. It's expensive, and I'm not kidding you. Then what I can do is just use that Yugo app or whatever it is. Uber? Yugo. I don't know. Well, now that the tire shop's getting the tires sorted out for the rig, we can start working on the engine a little bit here. By the way, the fellers there decoded the tires, you know, and 2 of them are from the 28th week of 1997. So they stood basically no chance of running 700 miles down the highway. Painful buying new tires, but I think in this case it was the right call. And again, with the 14s, oof, what a mess trying to find them going down the highway. So I think we'll just see if this thing is stuck first and foremost. Make sure it rolls over full 360 degrees, and then we'll check the lightning system on it and throw something down the app, see if we can make some noise. Let's see what the oil tells us here. Quantity over full. Ooh, might be some moisture in here. $10.30. It definitely needs changed. Don't smell or taste any gas or antifreeze or anything that is out of the ordinary. So that's fantastic. Means the head gaskets and the heads are probably in decent shape. There's some sort of juice in here. I don't know what it is. It's mostly rust and mud, but it's kept this thing from freezing. Apparently, all the freeze plugs seem to be in the block still, so that's great news. Now we'll move on to seeing if we can get this thing to roll over. Now on 283s and 327s, it's a little bit different because they typically don't have a crank snout bolt hanging out there that you can. So what I'm going to do here is I've got one set up to go off the generator, and I'm going to push down on the belt, and hopefully we can get the crank to turn off that way. I'm going to go make sure it's in neutralis here quick, and then we can just spin that ratchet and hopefully watch the crank spin over as well. Here we go. Oh, with ease. Oh yeah. I do hear some popping and spring noise out of the valve train, so it's been sitting long time. Also, I'm seeing more evidence of that timing cover leak over all the pulleys and water pump in front of the block and cross member and the steering apparatus arms that have also some sort of weird green fuzz growing on it. No power steering. Shoot. Did you know you can order these cars with all of the fixins of like the Impalas and whatnot? GM kind of considered them the wagon car, so you could get AC and power windows and power steering and you name it. This one, not so much. Goodness, give it back. Well, at this point, I think we'll throw a lightning cube in it and start firing up the ignition system. Make sure everything is getting the voltages that it needs. This has a Nun battery, so I picked up a new one. I got a Super Start for a couple of specific reasons. Mainly, it's got the go handle on it, you know, but it also says economy. And that is true. These are very, very affordable. And I've had pretty good luck getting a few years out of these things. Yep, 0 hold down, just the way I like them. Give them some freedom, you know? Just noticed this on the air filtration system. That's also custom. Get that out of the way while I'm looking at it. Does this move? Oh yeah. Jeez, it's got like a lazy boy spring on it. She's topped. Over here, up on the battery, this cable looks halfway decent-ish. This one, I'm positive, goes to one of them boom boom bass amplifiers. Not technically correct, but I'm gonna say good enough for the girls we date. And I don't have a clamp application tool. Oh, yeah, I do. That's installed. Now we can start testing all the digitals. These wire nuts, you know, start making a guy get a little curious. But basically the main thing we need We gotta have some V's up here on this lightning can. So we're gonna test this, which, okay, well, appears to have been a loose connection on that. So we might as well take this off now. And we're gonna fix this. Test for voltages, test the primary and secondary windings on the coil before we get too far. You know, we can start working our way through it. No vacuum advance hooked up on this. See here? None. We'll have to fix that. And then, yeah, guys, when you cut wires, fray them up like this and just let them whip in the wind. You know, that's fine. Get out my really sweet $7 meter here. What do we got? We got 12.7 of flavors. So now we'll throw it up here. I got the key turned on. We're gonna make sure I have as close to that as possible up here on the ignition wire. 12.7. That's fantastic. That also means the engine's bonded to ground. Very goodery too, if it has the same reading as over here. So now we're gonna go ahead and use our digital meter and test on the lightning can back here. And the reason I'm doing that now is just keep us from chasing our tail down the road, you know. And all we have to do here is put our meter on the horseshoe mode. And we're going to turn it to the lowest setting first because we're going to do what's called the primary winding. And there's two windings in here. The primary is the big one on the outside. It goes to these two posts. And then there's the secondary winding, which is your center. And basically all you have to do is just hold the black to negative, the red to positive, and on the primary you should see about 0.4 to 2. And then we're going to do the same with the center post and the side post, and that could be anywhere from 6 to 15, just depending on what kind of application you're going to go for. But if it's bad, it'll be super obvious. I mean, you guys are going to know it's going to be way out of whack. It'll be like 0.1, 0.2 on the primary and maybe like 5 on the secondary. And then, you know, just to take that out right away and replace it. And then you're not chasing points or condenser or any of that stuff or throwing money at stuff you don't need to. So I'm going to test that quick, see what we got. Okay, the primary winding, 2.6, very strong. And then we're going to turn this to 20,000. We'll try this one. 8.82. So ours is just fine. Gonna put a new fitting on this wire here to the coil quick. By the way, I get a lot of questions on how come I always turn the engines over by hand first. Well, what I'm doing is trying to prevent myself from having to do a whole bunch of work that I didn't need to do originally. Fellers get excited with some of these rigs sitting for a long time to throw a hot battery in there and throw a bunch of starting fluid or brake cleaner or other stuff I don't recommend right down the yap, make a nice big explosion. And then when they go to fire it off, the engine's a little tight. Guy could end up bending a push rod, breaking a ring. I've even personally had it where starter gets jammed up in the flywheel or flex plate. Just creates a whole bunch of problems. It literally takes a minute or less to throw a wrench on these, and just make sure you get a nice 360 degrees of rotation out of it before you get excited and start rolling her over with the starter. And it's going to save you a bunch of headache. I'm going to go ahead and pull a sparkulator out of here. Just scan our peepers on it. See what we got going on. Should be able to tell how it was running before it was parked. We can also see what kind of flavor we got in here. Got AC Dalco's 43S, which is good. Super fouled. And very oil covered. So she's probably a smoker. Could be valve seals leaking down, but most likely rings. With how easy it turned over, I mean effortlessly, there's barely any compression left in this old girl. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap the sparkulators out. But before I get to that point, I'm gonna pop the top off the lightning whirler really quick and just see what we got going on under there. Based on what I'm seeing, there's probably a walnut in there too. Clean it up just a hair if we need be, slam that back on, and then we'll just dump a little fire maker down it. See what kind of noise this thing makes. Yep. Yeah. No, not at all. Okay. Yes. How about now? I think I got the one. Oh, is that gonna reach? Probably not. How about now? Is it in there? I think so. Yes. Oh, never seen such a stubborn mule in my life. Well, how come this one's back on again? I don't understand. I gotta turn you to the next city or what? Okay, well, that's off. Well, since we got this off right now, might as well go ahead and see if our points are pointing spark down the lightning hoses. And that's very easy to do. Just turn your ignition on. That fires up the lightning can over here. And then if your engine is at the right rotation, where your lightning whirler down here is rocking, there's a little cam in here that opens and closes your points. And here's our points down in here. Now, I can't get in there to see, but you should be able to hear a snap. And that's going to be that spark. If we just rock this back and forth. Now listen now, fellers, listen. Oh, I can actually see it too. So we have a strong sparkle. There's no reason that's not going to transfer through the rotor and shoot down the hoses here. So we should be fine with spark. So now all we got to do is just add some fire maker and this thing should bark off. Hopefully the valve train's in good condition. Nothing stuck there. Well, for Pete's sake. Now before we go cranking on it, I went ahead and disconnected the fuel line that goes to the fuel tank because I don't want a brand new fuel pump pumping a bunch of crud into the Edelbrock, especially based on the old filter we saw that was just full of rust. And I have no idea how much fuel is in here or what kind of condition it's in, but I am smelling just, you know, oh yeah, it's brown, deck stain. That's good. Well, airport security wouldn't let me through with a mustard bottle full of non-ethanol fuel and two-stroke oil for some reason. This is the next best thing. You can grab it at O'Reilly's or whatever parts store you like. True Fuel. And they mix them 40 to 1 and 50 to 1, so she's all ready to go for you. I like to use a little two-stroke oil. Helps lubricate the top end, valves, all that, especially when they've been sitting dry this long. With these Edelbrocks, it's relatively easy to get some into the bowls here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, start juicing that up a little bit. Oh, I'm doing actually fairly well this time. Huh. Must not be noon yet. I don't have the shakes. And then I'll go ahead and splash a little bit down the throat here. Whoa, whoa, way too much. Perfect. Let's twist the key and see what happens. It is snowing leaves. Left. Anyway, go on ahead and place your bet. Think she'll fire right off, or we're gonna have to sit here and crank on a little bit? Might need some choke. I don't know. Okay, this seat is comfortable. Neutralis. I mean, it's impossible to tell where that's at. Bring the thunder. Oh, fired. There it goes. Lots of valve train noise. It's alive. It's not smoking too bad. Yes. Oh, I didn't look at the oil pressure. I did see that it was charging. Oh, that's great news. You simply can't kill a small block Chevy. Well, you can. It's very, very hard to do. Tons and tons of valve train chatter, but that's to be expected after sitting this long. But now that we know it runs, it sounded pretty decent. I didn't even see a cloud of smoke or nothing, which that's good and bad. It means the valve seal somehow hung in there, but all the oil we're seeing on the plugs, she ain't got no waffle rings left, you know. It's just sucking all that oil out of the crankcase. But now I feel comfortable going ahead and putting in sparkulators. They're getting expensive these days, but we'll put them in, and Miles will go ahead and change on the oil as well. I don't know what's in there. It's not very good. At least that's what my taste buds said. So we'll put something fresh in there, hopefully help it build some oil pressure and take care of this valve train. Got all the sparkulators swapped out. They all looked really consistent, except for 7 and 8 were really, really oil soaked. We'll just ignore that. Destroyed half of the hoses, getting them off. pretty crunchy and the ends just ripped right out of the boots. But the tires and wheels are ready to be picked up already. So what I'm going to do is go grab them, swing by the parts store, get some new lightning hoses, and maybe I'll think of something else along the way. Like I might also pick up a belt because this one's looking drier than Betty White's back. And then we'll see if we can change the oil and get this thing idling and start working through the rest of it. Probably start with like bearings and stuff like that. Transmission, does it even shift? Have a clutch? I don't know. We're gonna have to find out. And then last, of course, does it have brakes? I'm not even gonna touch the pedal until it's time to go, because every time I jump in and hit the pedal, it's bad news. Never have any brakes. Got some fresh lightning hoses. That's a great thing about Chevrolet. It's the most interchangeable creation on the face of the planet. Well, other than cowboy boots and wagon wheels. I said, hey, need them for a 65 Impala. I said, nope, don't have them. And I said, need them for a 76 C10 pickup. Yep, got them. So if you're looking for parts for a small block Chevy, if they say no, pick any year up to 1986, Impala, Caprice, Malibu, whatever. It's all the same, fellers. And if it's something as simple as an ignition piece of some kind, Buick, whatever, Pontiac, whatever, pick an Oldsmobile. Get spicy. Say a Cadillac, something or other. It's all the same. So I'm gonna change these out quick, that way we can say we're done with the ignition anyway. That would be nice. Officially be done with something today. I think I need a longerist flavor. Do you guys replace these one at a time, or do you rip them all off and then do them, or how do you do your lightning hoses? Comment down there below, let me know. Just kind of curious. If I already got them on the rig like this, I just do them one at a time, mainly because I'm lazy and I don't want to verify the firing order again. Even though I have this tattooed on my back in bold, 3-inch high letters, but that doesn't matter. Still lazy. One done, 58 to go. These are some like eBay flavor. They're very licoricey in some spots, and then they're like 3-month-old cornflakes and other. It's definitely not silicone, even though it says radio suppression silicone. Lies. Them are all popped in. Normally on a rig like this, there's a loom behind the valve cover here, or they'll have tall stand-up ones. Keep them from burning on the manifold, but this is kind of a different setup. So I did the right thing and just zip tied them back. You know, let's keep the heat away from them if we can. Did the same thing over there. Well, while we got her up in the teeth here, let's go ahead and jump underneath and bust the drain plug loose. Change on the oil real fast, and then we're back to seeing if this thing will idle, and we might even plug in the original fuel system and see what that tells us. Well, since the guy's under here, thought I'd show you around a little bit. Got an oil leak. I don't know if you can tell where, but it's up there. Ooh, very watery coming out of there. But yeah, not so much like here, more like all of this area. You can see the original engine mounts. Fuel pump's laying right on the cross member. That's fine. Lower rat hose is new. That's a perk. Idler arm shot. I don't know about the ball joints yet. Look at that. Oof. She's gonna be a little sloppy going down the road. Pretty tight clearances in this old girl. We'll finish getting this drained out, and then I'll pop that filter off here next in a second. Of course, I went with the Wix filter down below. And today's flavor of oil is Rotella T4 heavy duty diesel oil, 1540. It's got all the dinosaurs and vitamins a feller needs. And these old flat tappet cam engines, really like the contents here. Drink up, little buddy. You're gonna need it at 3,000 RPM the way home. To top her off, a guy grabbed this Rislone. I don't know, must be French. Ring seal smoke repair, says seals worn pistons and rings. Yep, need that. Reduces oil burning. Yep. Basically, this is a Craigslist rebuild right in a little bottle. Boom. Lower end redone. Boy, that stuff's like honey. And I ain't kidding you. Well, the guy filled up the carb bowl again, and then I jammed some fire maker down the throat. Way too much again. It just splashes out. The goal here is to just get it running for 10-15 seconds, make sure we're building oil pressure. I still don't have the fuel pump hooked up to the actual tank in the truck, and we're going to leave it that way for now until we can assess that. But I just want to make sure that we're getting proper fuel pressure here first. Okay, cranking. Oh yeah, I definitely flooded it. Building pressure. There we go. It's got, what does that say, 25 pounds of pressure? Not a lot, especially for 1540 that's fresh. Oofda. Wow, that just kind of confirms the engine's pretty weak. It builds about 25 pounds of oil pressure, even above idle, with fresh 1540. So that tells us that, you know, the main bearings and the rod bearings, she's a little loose, a little tired. But the good news is I learned from the old timers at the dirt track back in the day, hanging out with my dad, that basically small block Chevys only need 5 pounds of oil pressure per 1,000 RPM. So I don't know how to do math, but if we have 25 pounds of pressure, I think that means we can crank her up to 5,000 RPM still, which that's plenty to do a burnout, right? So we're fine. I don't know what the rear end gear is in this, but I'm guessing with the 3-speed, we'll probably be cruising 2,800, 3,000 RPM at 55 to 60 if we get her on the road. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. And if she starts dipping down, we'll just top her off with some 2050 or just keep throwing in some motor honey, you know. But it runs. That's the main thing. Sounds pretty decent. The valve train started coming back around. So now, let's go ahead and pop a filter tray in, pre-pumped later. There's one post, we need one pre. And that way if we start sucking up gunk, we could save the diaphragm in the fuel pump and not put one of the 17 that are in the box in the cab, because that looks like a tight fit. I'd just rather not, is what I'm saying. Finished up routing the fuel lines here. And as you can see, we've got a huge service loop all the way up into here. And that's so if we have to change this filter out, she's up top. Guy doesn't have to get the old cardboard mat out, slide underneath on the side of the road. Also, if there's a fire, we want to drag this fuel around as much as possible up in here, really spread it out evenly. Did you know that NASCAR drivers used to cheat by lengthening their fuel lines just like this? Because if they could get a 1/4 gallon or a 1/2 gallon more, they might not have to pit and maybe stay on the lead lap or whatever else it may be. But this is how they cheated, just by lengthening their fuel lines, get some extra capacities in there. So that's pretty well set up. We'll crank on it again and see if we can suckleize some sort of juice in here, and we'll see what we got going on right away. Wonder what Jody Messina's doing. Wrote her a letter about 2 months ago, just haven't heard nothing. Also, there's been a lawnmower running in this neighborhood since 7:30 this morning. How could there be that much grass around here? I don't know. Filling up the bowls again. See if we can get this to run a little bit longer. It's probably going to take a minute or so to pull from that tank, I would reckon. Keep your eye on that fuel filter now. Should hopefully start pulling some fuel. There we go. There we go. Oh, back to clattering a little bit. Still got 25 pounds of oil pressure though, we'll just have to wait. Didn't want to sit and idle. You know, that don't look half bad. There is some chunks in here, but I think we can live with that. We can even run 2 or 3 of these fill trays in a line, and if a guy pulls over, you pull the plug one off, plug into the next one, and keep going. Makes it faster on the side of the road. I'm gonna try to fire it up again, see if we can't get it running just a little bit longer. Maybe even get some heat into this thing. I got my positive cable already burning on the manifold. Whoops. Come on now. Here we go. Cold-blooded little devil. If I can get this warmed up and idling decent, I wonder if a guy could test the clutch out, get it in gear, and just let it sit up on the stands and rotate the rear a little bit. Then we can hook our ear bone into the axle bearings and stuff like that. See how them are doing. Went ahead and rigged in my Lone Wolf 6000 here. I waited until the manifold is 9 million degrees to try to hook it onto the starter. Ouch. But luckily, the ignition wire is crudely spliced together with another household wire nut. So I just hooked into that, jumped off the battery here. Gonna make sure the key's turned on. It is. Now we should be able to start it right from this guy here and keep it running. I got the choke applied right now. So I'm just manually applying the choke right now, keep it idling. Stay. I'm gonna bring that idle up. Yeah, needs more fuel. I think we're hearing a lean pop there. Gonna turn that regulator up. Give her a couple shots here. Go again. It sounds like she's got a really bad vacuum leak. I'm gonna have to chase that down. It's just idling all over the place sporadically. Fuel pump works, which is great. But I'm gonna take this brake parts cleaner with the straw and start going around the carb base and all the vacuum fittings and blocker offers and doodads. See if I can figure out where this leak is coming from. Could also be an intake gasket. And I'm gonna take a 1/2 inch and a 7/9/16 and just tighten anything and everything that'll hook on to. See if we can get this calmed down a little bit to where I can at least start adjusting the fuel, make it happier. I already walloped on her with my carb adjusting tool, but hopefully if we can get her settled down here, a guy can actually get in and tune on this just a hair. Hello, relax. I need some information first. Just the basic facts. Can you tell me where it hurts? Oh, that was loose. That was loose. That's really loose. That was finger tight. Might be the intake gasket here. We'll snug all these up and then we'll come back and hit her with the spray. See what that tells us. Yeah, it's already better. We're listening for the idle to change. If it revs up, then it's pulling in this brake cleaner and leaking. Boy, that valve train is really noisy. Before a guy makes any carburetor adjustments, you always want to make sure your timing is where you want it first, otherwise you're going to be chasing your tail. I don't have a timing light, but I got something better called my brains in my ears. So I'm going to fire it up, time this thing really quick, and then we'll see if we can get this carb dialed in a little bit better. It's still fluctuating a little bit. Not really liking that. Right about there. Well, I consulted with both my physicians, 1 and 2, and unfortunately the fuel make it happener's got to come off. Our idle circuitry's clogged up, probably from all that gunk we saw in that first firemaker filter that's laying in the cabin now. So I'm going to pop that off quick. I don't know where my rental went. Somewhere I got a tailgate. I guess we got a tailgate on this one too. We're just going to on that thing. Don't have a kit, but all we need to do is just clean it up. I wish I did have a jet kit. We'd go from a 0.1 down a little bit, but that's okay. I did not expect it to be this bad. I mean, there are huge chunks and just sediment everywhere. Primary and secondary jets are plugged. The air bleeders are plugged. I mean, pump is shot. It basically needs an entire rebuild, and I gacked one of the gaskets up coming off. It didn't want to come apart nice. So now I get to dial a friend, see what the Google machine tells me, try to find a rebuild kit at 5 o'clock at night. Nope, that's not going to happen. Plan B, I don't know. But we need some parts here for this to operate correctly. I'm going to start just spraying this up and cleaning it while I'm on the phone. It looks like the floats aren't leaking. You can see the fuel line. I got to clean these up though. Normally if they don't have a line like that, they have a pinhole in them. And if you shake them, you can hear fuel in them. Needles weren't sticking, so that's good. That's about the only thing that was halfway decent on this. Well, O'Reilly's actually did have the rebuild kit on their performance wall and a new plunger, so I can go ahead and just do a full rebuild on this thing now. We'll go ahead and put the needles and seats and everything in. Also has the base gasket for the intake. That went immediately. Now don't be afraid to dig into these things, fellers. And there's some people out there that just like to really overcomplicate these. All it is just passages and orifices. Clean them out, whether it's with a straw or air, and then you just put it back the way that it was. It's kind of like adult Legos. One of the tools that'll really help you is this nylon whirly-woo, and that works really, really good for these front bosses or areas up here for your accelerator pump, and then there's one that mirrors it on the other side. And if you're careful, you can jam this in there just right. And that makes those look brand new. And then you can also use it to clean out the bowls and everything in here. If you don't want to spend a couple bucks on this, get an old toothbrush or something like that, or just take the one out of your travel bag. You don't brush your teeth anyway. Looking really clean, or a lot better. But I got a shuttle stuck in here. There's a little check ball under there, and that is not supposed to be stuck in there. That is supposed to freely move. So I got to try to find a pick or something if I can get that free. We can also try to get some juice down in here and work it free. There we go. Got the check ball out and the little shuttle. It sits on top of it. Now carburetors are just circuits fillers. So if you want to figure out what that ball does, just stick your juice down there. Watch the accelerator pump. See it's going over there. So that's why when we were cracking the throttle when it was trying to idle, we had no accelerator pump, which this is also shot, but even if it wasn't, that check ball being stuck, we would have no squirter action, so it's going to stall because too much air, not enough fuel. That's going to resolve it. And in this kit, typically there's a new shuttle. Yeah, there it is right there. So we'll grab this. Guys got her all cleaned up here. I mean, well, good enough for a tailgate rebuild anyway. Cleaned up the floats and the metering rods with this piece of like foamish 3000 grit. Works pretty good. Soaked it down and just scrubbed them up. Got these nice and clean. New needles and seats, new accelerator pump. Made sure the check valve is all clean. New gaskets here. So we should be ready just to slap this together, and then I'll get her back on the truck quick. Well, the fuel make it happener. It's back on. And hopefully now it makes fuel happen. I've done a couple things here. I set the transfer slots to square. If you look at the primary butterflies, there's rectangular grooves in there. Back those off until they make tiny squares. And then with the timing set, we're going to make our adjustments now on idle speed with the air fuel mixture primarily, but we might have to just touch that timing a little bit. I've also eliminated the fuel pressure regulator in case that's malfunctioning or full of gunk. We're just piped right in after this post filter. I also replaced the vacuum line that was going up to the brake booster. I basically breathed on it and it fell off, so that was most likely leaking as well. I leaned in and verified we've got squirter action, so we know that we fixed that for sure. Let's see if we can fire it up again. There we go. Slowly turn these. See if it likes it or not. Boy, this thing's purring like a kitten in front of a bowl of milk, and I ain't kidding you. Running so much better, but I definitely have a stuck lift here. Got plenty of oil pressure. We're just going to kind of wait here, see if it pumps up. Hopefully it's not completely collapsed. Idling at about 20 pounds. Oh, we'll just let her sit and run. See if it'll come back around. Drums came right off, and there's still plenty of shoes on here. The other side did too. The reason I did that is I think I'm gonna throw in gear, get things rotating and whirling, see how the U-joints sound, make sure we got a clutch, all of that. Of course, we don't have any pressure on the clutch, but just make sure that it's going into gear and everything looks and sounds halfway normal before we drop it down to some tires and wheels. I got you over there on the drinker side. Hook your peepers down there in the axle. We need some rotation out of that. Clutch pedal down, grindage. It went in though. Clutch out. Oh, I just felt it engage. Something's happening. Shift knob almost hits that rearview mirror in a second. I don't feel any horrible vibrations. Well, we've got something that resembles a clutch. It seems to be functioning. The rear wheel turner thing is turning. But I think before we throw the front tires on, I'm gonna take a look at these wheel bearings. 700 miles is a long, long way for an old rig like this. So it's worth just taking a couple minutes, seeing what we got going on. Someone's been in here before because there's just a piece of wire instead of a cotter key. Ooh, it's the old school big ball ones. This is a different kind of bearing than what you fillers are used to. It's kind of a three-piece. There's a race, there's a roll carrier holder inner upper device, and then there's the outside roller upper race ball holder inner bearing machine thing on here. I don't feel any bad pitting. Cleaned up that right front wheel bearing some more, and unfortunately those pits right there tell us that this bearing is shot. No good. This will not make it 700 miles. I mean, I'm willing to try, but most likely not. And if we tore up the spindle, then we're really in trouble. I called every single part store and auto part store that I could find using my pocket computer. No one has this. It's special order. Some places are closed today. Probably gonna have to try them in the morning. But I think for now, I'm just gonna pack it, put it back together, and just be prepared for worst case, which is we just close our eyes and go. But now I'm definitely gonna check the other side as well. Captain's side is out. This one's been replaced before. This is called a new departure. It has a different part number, but obviously they look identical. This one's fine, so I just need to find, I took a picture of this part number and the other one, which is a Federal F067. I've got to get one for the drinker side yet. So this side I'm going to go ahead and put back on. I got to find a split pin cotter key, something. There was nothing in the castle nut on that side. Perfect. Well, as you can see, it's 0 dark 30. I cleaned up for tonight. I just can't see nothing. Gonna do some research on that wheel bearing. Find a couple places that I could go to right away in the morning. There's got to be like a National Bearing and Hose or something like that. But other than that, we just got to pop the tires and wheels on, and then the dreaded brakes, you know, pack up, and then we're on the road. Well, good morning. Last night I picked up the mess that I made and unloaded the tires and wheels out of the rental, and then spent the rest of the evening looking for a bearing. I couldn't find one, but Rich, the previous owner, did. And not only that, but he went and grabbed it this morning. And while he was doing that, I returned the rental truck because I didn't want to pay for another day. It's expensive. Taxied back, grabbed a couple more things. This one doesn't look the same. It's got a plastic carrier. Looks like an Alien made it, but as long as the dimensions are correct, we're going to give it a whirl. Also picked up some cotter pins. If you're ever in a pinch and need a maraca, just saying, might work. Gonna throw this in quick, pin this up, get the tires on this thing and put it on the ground. Never even test driven it. No idea if it has brakes, but you know, we're in it now. That's how I'm getting 700 miles home, I guess. That's fine. Well, this hadn't completely failed, but it was very close. If you look closely, see all those dimples and imperfections in there? It was about ready to give up and start pitting really bad and just start coming apart. Here's grooves in here. That's where you can drive your punches to get that race out. I'm gonna find that 3000 grit cloth I had last night and just kind of polish the outside of this. And then we're going to drive that back in there, pack this up with some grease, throw it back on. I found the best sized driver inner here. Gentle taps, fellers. You don't need to hit it like a Mopar starter, and just make sure that you're driving it in evenly all the way around. If you're not, just tilt your handle a smidge so you apply pressure where you need it, get her straightened back out. Perfect. There we go. That looks much better. There's just something about white letter tires on old rigs, brings them right back around. Although some fellers don't like them. They're a black wall kind of guy, or maybe even a white wall. What are you? I guess bleep bloop it down below. You a white wall, white letter, plain Jane? Maybe you don't have tires. I don't know. I guess for me it's always white letter. I'm gonna finish putting these tires and wheels on, get this thing back down on the ground here. That's more like it. Looking much, much better. Moving on to the brakes here, save them for last, you know. Usually because they're the most difficult to work on. I never have them. And also with a manual transmission, you don't really need them. I'm gonna crack the reservoir here, see what we got for juice. It's so tiny. It's like a thimble. And it's almost empty. I'll go grab some stop later, make it happen juice. It's always a good idea to check this before you start pounding on the brake pedal with your earth pounders. Because if it's at the very bottom of the reservoir and you start pumping, you pump all that through the system and you start sucking air, and now you got to bleed everything. So this is just hoping that maybe it'll work. The fact that there's some in there is really good news. It means the wheel cylinders probably aren't weeping. We don't have any massive leaks right now. So I don't know. I don't know. Let's go hit them. Oh, great. Here we go. Oh, that sounded like a John Deere B tractor, but it's supposed to be a drum roll. Here we go. Oh, there's a little pedal there, and it's coming back. I don't know if it's doing anything. I don't want to pump it much more than that. Sometimes you build too much pressure, you can just pop some lines. So let's save it until we really need brakes, and then we'll find out if a line's gonna pop. Good idea. Well, we're to that point, I guess. I'm gonna start cleaning the bed of the car truck coupe utility thing. Did we settle that yet? Is this a car or a truck? Michigan calls it a truck on the title, by the way. I gotta clean all this up, get my tools and stuff in here. I also just bought something else from Rich that snagged my eye. I need a little bit of room for that. He's gonna help me get that loaded, get everything kind of strapped in, and then I guess our first stop is getting up this hill and going to a gas station, because I don't know what's in it or if we're even gonna make it there. I mean, I couldn't just leave it here, you know. Suzuki, Madura, V4. It's been off the road for 13 years. I think that's right. 2008. Doesn't currently run. It's had it since I think 02 or so. She's got 38,000, almost 39,000 on it. And I made him an offer and he said yup. So, you know, I got a coupe car truck thing. Might as well just bring that home with us. If you guys want to see this on the channel, I guess you let me know. Otherwise I'll just tinker with it in my free time, which is never. You got saddlebags. Look at the seat. Boop, 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 boop. It's not in that bad a shape, if I'm being honest with you. That's in Japanese or something. No idea what it says. Got her strapped in up into there, you know. Luggage, my tools. We're ready to go. Well, didn't make it far. House I just left is right there. Some sort of large clunking going on up front here. Poking around, and it looks like a wheel weight got me a little too big and hitting this steering rod doodabber. So I'm gonna do the right thing, take my Leatherman and just pop that off. Well, the culprit is off. Well, let's try it again. Starts up immediately. Gas gauge is coming up. Doubtful that works though. Clutch seems to be working pretty good, but the steering wheel play is nothing to mess with. Brakes, left front hard. That's about it. Try it again up here. Anything fall out? Nothing yet. Brakes? Sure. This is gonna be a wild 700 miles, guys. Come on. We gotta find a gas station right now. I have no idea what's in here. Rich put like 2.5 gallons in for me. Another big thank you to him. He's been tremendously helpful. Very kind. Yeah. Oh, ooh. But just jump started. It's fine. Just save it on fuel. Jeez. These brakes are gonna take a bit to get used to. Transmission's just howling in here. Sounds like a pack of wolves. I mean, I kind of like it, but I don't think it's good. Steering is significantly loose. I'm gonna have an issue with carbon monoxide. My eyes are already on fire. Also at 45, it's like 3,000 RPM. So this is gonna be a long trip. Made it. Mile around the corner. Filled up, but massive grinding still on the captain's side front over here, and crawled underneath. And we still got some rubbish going on here, pretty bad. Use my tape measure. You know, the wheel lip is the same all the way around, but then a guy got to thinking about wheel offset, and look at the wheel compared to the drum there. Look at the wheel compared to the drum there. Plenty of room, not hitting. So then to verify that, guy crawled underneath here, and sure enough, see how the drum is sunk in? Fine back here, of course, but then that one is kicked out. So did not even think about it when I pulled these off or had them mounted, but they had a different offset on the front of these 14s to clear the steering. So now the drinker side rear needs to go on the captain side front. Great. I don't know if you can tell, that's where I was rubbing. Snapped the lug off back there. I thought, well, you know what, I'll just borrow one over here. Well, snapped one of them off, didn't realize one was already missing. So I've got 3 lugs here. So I'm gonna take one up there, put it over there. So I'll have 4, 3, 4, and 5. I don't know. You don't need all 5. They're spares. This is what they're for. Well, I did the math. If we keep up this pace, I'll make it home by Christmas. So that's good. Also, this pizza is what the kids today would call fire lit. I'm trying to say it's good, I guess. It's pretty good. 700 miles, one way or another. I have to be home tomorrow night. I mean, we'll go after I finish my pizza. I'm running about 58 to 60 right now. It's not good. It's really wrapped up, and I think the state minimum is 55 on the interstate. Might have to throw the old maps on avoid highways, even trying to get out of town here. It's gonna add 3 or 4 hours of the trip today alone, but woo, she's just singing. I'm getting woozy already. Oh, I don't even have a blinker stick. Navigating traffic is a little tricky using the old arms, you know. But the good news is, in the last 20-some miles, thousands of cars have passed me, and I've seen 2 blinkers. Apparently, Detroiters just, you know, they don't use them up here, so I'm blending right in. Looks like my next exit, 54 miles, so we're starting to get out of town now, maybe, which is good news. Oil pressure is dropping. I'm cruising at about 18 pounds now. Might have to put a piece of tape over that to fix the oil pressure. Well, we're south of Detroit just a little bit, exit 32. I'm in a Lowe's, if you don't know what that is. It's like a Home Depot. If you don't know what that is, it's like a Menards. If you don't know what that is, it's a hardware store, fella. The exhaust fumes, I've already got a headache, and listen, I've been around the block. So I'm telling you, this is pretty severe. The captain side exhaust is rotted off right behind the cab, and the cab floor doesn't exist. So we're gonna come in here, get some material, and just fix this thing right. Yeah, this ought to do the ticket. Step one is sticky drywall tape here, fellers. Roll that out. We want it to take a shape and give the foam something to adhere to. Well, that's looking really good. Got this foamed end down here, a little over here. Well, now that this thing's basically full of factory options, I think we'll go ahead and hit the road again. Shot right across the street here, filled up. I did this 4 times to make sure it was right, but I'm getting 15.67 miles per gallon, which is just mind-boggling at 3,500 RPM. But I'm going to take it, so now I can figure out the capacities, how far we can go. I should probably fill that jug full of gas really quick, wherever that is, since I'm here. Whoppin', whoppin'. Okay, let's get back on the road. Stopped and fueled up here. Also, I've only got about 5 pounds of oil pressure at idle and 10 to 12 on the highway. Hopefully, I'm going to check in a minute, but hopefully we're just using up some oil, because otherwise, uh-oh. Also, both headlights were shooting off this way and also hitting the space station for some reason. I think I got them rassled in. This one, the clips are busted, so she auto adjusts, see, as you're going down the highway. Hopefully it doesn't fall out. I don't know. It's about as good as we're gonna get it, I guess. But they come on, so that's good news. And I think I got here I am lights. Yeah, one on each side. So at least I can see me at night. But I'm gonna whiz over here. We'll check on the 3 lug nut situation and the 4 and the 4. And 3 or 4 up there? I can't remember. Well, I don't know. It's still here. I'll hit it with the Ooga Doogas on all the sides, I guess. Whoa. Okay, time for a new filtre. That one is shot. No burned lightning hoses over here. Getting kind of close over there, but we'll be okay, I suppose. Belt's hanging in there. Looking pretty good. Nothing bad leaking. Knock on wood. Ooh, that was getting close to getting into the fan there. Oofda. I'll go grab one of these out of the tote and change that quick. Well, there's 2 options on the oil pressure issue. The bearings are working themselves out of a job, or we somehow just burned 5 quarts of oil and 200 miles. That's the one that I would like, and that's what's going on. Completely absolutely bone dry. So I'm gonna have to load up on some oil. Gas station oil is really expensive. I'm gonna see if there's a parts store somewhere around here and just buy a whole case, I guess. Got this filter tray changed out, ready to rock. I got one more left, and if I'm doing my math right, I'm gonna need 2 of those, and I'm gonna need probably 12 quarts of oil. Still getting about 15 to 16 mpgs though, and magically the fuel gauge started working, so it's kind of self-healing. Maybe the rings will come back around. Nope, they're shot. Well, the guy just checked. I got 467 miles to go, so hopefully that's enough Earl to get me down there. Since all the horse torques are chewing up the oil, it doesn't really make sense to keep putting Motel in, so I just got the house brand 1540. Well, I was gonna throw 30 weight down, just straight 30 weight, but that was a little bit more expensive than that anyway, so we'll save some money by just going with that. Picked up a couple different filters here. This is the prime line. You'll find that in the small engine area. Really cheap. They work great, as you guys have seen time and time again. The downside is they only go to 5/16 lines, so you got to really squeeze on them. Step up from that is going to be this 33003. This is a micro guard. It's the replacement for the wicks. And then the best, but also more expensive, is the actual wicks 33003. And these are 3/8 lines there, so I grabbed those, so I have a couple extras because that was my last one. And then you guys have probably noticed I haven't been doing the standard Italian tune-up, just dumping it down the app and feeding her the onions, and that's because we still have a lot of valve train noise. Could look at that in the morning, we'll see. And then also the low oil pressure as well. So the worst thing to do is hold these wide open. A little bit nervous about getting back, fellers, but now that we know she's chewing on that much Earl, we're gonna go heavy on the Berrymans, right in the tank. We'll try to keep them sparkulators clean. I don't got another set, and I don't want to buy one. That's like 40 bucks or something like that. So hopefully this will help keep them clean. In fact, we'll pull one out tomorrow morning and see what they look like. But we're gonna top this off, load up all this gear. They had some lugulators. They're a little short, but could a guy get one on here? Oh, this one has them all. Why did that happen? Oh wait, one of these is wrong. This one down here is not the right lug, so we can replace that one. And this snap one back here, where is it? That one's really gone. This one might have enough, you know, 2 threads to get one of these on. Maybe that'll help-ish. No, it's gonna do nothing. Well, as you can see, it's officially dark outside. So let's get this thing fired up, put it back on the highway, and see how it does with these headlights kind of just, you know, googly eyeing. See if it's plausible. I keep going, otherwise we might have to just shut her down for tonight and get up at the crack of dawn. I'd rather just keep pushing on tonight, but we'll see what happens. Something in my clutch pedal broke. It's trying to pull into the motel, so I had to shut it off. So I was going to start it in gear, and now I don't have a starter. The ignition switch is not working. So, or maybe it is. I'm going to make sure that it's not the switch by hooking up my lone wolf again, and hopefully this will take care of that. We could try to deal with the clutch in the morning. My motel is literally like right over there. Oh, got a yeller. Oh, she's red. I wonder if I can make it the whole way like this. Doubtful. Can I just jam it in here? There we go. Okay. Now, got 0.4 miles. Let's see if we can make it. For the clutch pedal. I think I'm gonna take a nap at this fine 2-star establishment here. No idea where I'm at. I'm south of Louisville. I'm glad I went through at this time though, because the traffic was a breeze. Any other time it would have been a mess. I would have went all the way around in back roads because I don't have, you know, brake lights or blinkers or any of that stuff. Truck is getting a lot worse, as you might could tell. Got a very, very obvious dead knock. It is now blowing oil out the tailpipe. Something just happened with the clutch. The battery's dead, which probably means the generator stopped working, and or the starter's bad. So I'm just gonna go, you know, lay down for a bit. We'll see you when the sun comes up. And the good news is I am nowhere near home. Huh. Morning. No charging system. Dead cylinder. Bad oil consumption. No clutch. No oil pressure. And you know, hundreds of miles home. So that's good. Could be worse, you know. Also, it is a beautiful day out. Kind of overcast. Slight breeze. I like it. I think where I'm going to start this morning is clutch. I got lots of cities to go through, including Nashville. It's always stop and go. There really is no good way to get around them. And if you go around them, there's a bunch of stop signs and small towns with lights. Some of you might be thinking, I just started in gear. Listen, feller, you've been listening to the starter. It's on its last leg. Plus, I got a minimum of, I don't know, 1,500 to 1,800 pounds of gear in the back. That is not a good combination. I just don't think it would work. What would probably end up happening is us stuck on the side of the freeway in Nashville at 5 p.m. That would be awesome. With the clutch here, you know, I've felt that clutch feel before where it just snaps like that. It's usually a throwout bearing or a clutch fork. Not good. That's going to shut us down. Or it could be a pivot ball. Sometimes those get worn and snap. Sometimes an easy fix, but most of the time they snap flush right on the block. That will also shut us down, because from experience, having repaired that 137 times, the only way to do that is to weld a nut onto what's left of the threads and back that out. You can't get a drill in there to drill a hole and use an easy out or anything. And I've tried JV weld and all sorts of quick steel and
magical goops trying to get a nut or something affixed in there. No, ain't gonna happen. So I'm gonna assess that first, see what we got going on there, and then we can figure out the other parts potentially based on our clutch situation. And then I suppose by noon today I better figure out what the plan is to eventually get all this junk home. Yeah, but first, coffee. I got updates. Coffee is actually really good. Oh, and the pivot ball, that is the issue, which is also gooder of the two. And also somehow, and I've never seen this in 20 plus years of working on junk, the pivot ball fell out. I don't know. I can tell you I've spent hours trying to get them out. Never seen one fall out. So that's good. That means we've got options. I'm gonna walk up to the off ramp. That's where I hit the pedal last night trying to downshift in the second, because the only brake I have is the left front, you know? And that's when I went kaplow. So I'm hoping if I get up to the off ramp, it's like, I think it's 2 miles from here. You might hear the traffic actually. I'm gonna look for that pivot ball. It'd be nice to put that one back in. If not, O'Reilly's has a Dorman help part. It's not correct. It has the right thread, but the ball shaft side of it is not correct. That might work. And I'm also gonna pick up some 1/2-inch bolts. Maybe we could jam one of them into that tube. Probably not. After I go to the off ramp, we're gonna walk another mile or two down to O'Reilly's, and we'll pick up some parts there. I already called around town. No one has a generator for this. I mean, knew that was gonna happen. O'Reilly's can get it tomorrow morning, but I need to be on my way to Florida tomorrow morning for another event, so that's not gonna work. I can't stay another night. I gotta be back tonight. So maybe we'll just buy 3 or 4 batteries and just swap them out as need be. If we have a clutch, that ain't gonna be so bad. My Rusty Acres is lined up with vehicles that don't have batteries anyway, and I've been putting off buying them for a long time. So maybe I just go ahead and finally invest in getting a couple good batteries, you know? So that doesn't really hurt me too bad maybe in the end. So anyway, I'm gonna pack up all my gear, go dump that off in the Motel office, and start hoofing. Ooh, might be able to use these. If not, save some of the flat tire. I haven't seen a Long John Silver's in a long time. It used to be popular when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. There's the off-ramp I'm aiming for. Riding along in my automobile. Oh, there goes the clutch, no pedal feel. Wow, this is gonna be a lot tougher than I thought. There is stuff scattered everywhere on these off-ramps. Why are there so many litter bugs? Oh boy, I think it was more backer there. Maybe we'll go all the way to the end and then work this way. This is a real needle in a haystack kind of situation. But the good news is I've been picking up trash and making piles along the way. I don't know if they have a highway program or not, but this will make it easier for them, I guess. There are a lot of screws out here. Huh. I am officially suspending search activities. I'm going to start walking towards O'Reilly's, a couple miles that way. Shortcut. Mater. Delivery truck just left. They were kind enough to drop all the stuff back off for me. It would have been the pits trying to carry all this. You guys have seen these before. Super Starts Marine with the go handles, and they have the Postma bobbers on here, so I could switch these between the cars and the Traymores and stuff like that. I got plenty of junk to put this in when we get home. They don't have a ton of cold cranking amps, but they're made to run without an alternator or generator pretty often. You know, boats, you just sit there with the music on, or fish finders or whatever else. That's kind of what we got going on right here. All we're doing is running the lightning system. And then I also got this 12 volt
charger doodad professionally installed, and by that I mean zip tied to the radio knob. And then I took the red wire and just draped it over the post here and beat her on with my Leatherman, and then just fished her through whatever kind of apparatuses I could find. So that's okay. I think we're going to start with the clutch. It's the most important thing. This is not the period correct pivot ball, but it does have 1/2 inch coarse threads. This should thread into the block. Question's going to be whether or not this fits correctly into the Z-bar. I did also buy some files in case we need to get creative. And then does it have the right length to where the Z-bar is not going to pop off? Might have to get a little creative on this side. There's a tab on the frame here, or there's another one that bolts in there and does stuff on that side. Then we'll move on to, well, we got a very dead, obvious dead piston in here. I'll show you. Maybe we'll just crank it over. You can hear it just cranking, but also you can tell because of the way that it is. Look at the straight oil just pouring out of the tailpipe. It looks like that all the way down. Miscellaneous oil drips. And I think, yeah, look, you can see it right here. It's probably this guy. We'll pull the valve cover off, try to doctor this thing up, see if we can nurse this engine home if we get the clutch going. But basically at this point, this is what you would call a blown up engine, essentially. It's done, it's tired. Put a fork in it. Poor thing was just laid up, taking a dirt nap, toes up in the daisies, and then old Derek shows up, tries to drive it 700 miles home. This is where you'd pull it out and just rebuild it, but we're not quite there yet. We need a little bit more out of you. And then I think we'll just toss in some batteries. I got some vacuum lines. We'll change the filter, do the usual maintenance in the morning. I got some thick motor honey we'll throw in it. And then hopefully by sundown, we'll hit the road. Okay, that is in. It's got a lot more play in it than a guy wants, but it's gonna have to work. I tested it once, it works. That's all I'm gonna test on her. We're gonna save on the rest of them in case there's only 20 of them, you know. I'm gonna pull the number 6 sparkulator out here, hook my peeper into it, make sure that's the one we're dealing with. I think we're gonna pull this valve cover off, see what we got going on with the valve train as well. And since we got such low oil pressure, I think we're gonna adjust it with it running. I don't have too much of a fear of it splashing everywhere. Definitely number 6. There's just no rings left in the thing. All the oil from the crankcase is just coming right up in there and straight out the exhaust. I got to thinking about it last night, and when I would decelerate, let off the throttle, the oil pressure would increase. Otherwise it was low. I'd gain 10 pounds of pressure by decelerating. And I think that's the pistons actually pulling that crank up and closing that bearing gap, increasing the pressure there. I don't know, could be wrong, but it makes sense in my brain. So the bearings are long gone, and this piston is definitely hurt. I usually carry a bore scope, but since I flew in on this one, I don't have anything. Could be a broken ring, stuck rings, shoot, could be a chip piston. We don't know, but I'm gonna hit this with some brake rejuvenation spray and then just toss it right back in, you know. And then we'll get this thing fired up, get it warm enough where it'll sit here and idle. We'll pull that valve cover off, see if we can see anything physically wrong. Otherwise, we'll try to adjust on it a little bit, see if we can nurse this thing along. Well, here's why we lost that cylinder when we were pulling in last night. That is not supposed to be like that. And that is not supposed to be stuck in there. And we've lifted a stud out of the head. These are press-in studs. You can get screw-in studs. Looks like this one's been replaced. It's longer. And this one, actually. Those might be screw-in stud replacements, but that would be weird that that one's lifted like that, if that's the case. Now I suppose I'll back this rocker off, see if I can get this push rod out. That's probably all bent up. That lifter is most likely trashed too. We might just have to delete on this cylinder, but we'll see if we can try to salvage this stud first and see if we can cobble it back together. Got the stud out. Had to use the vice grip to clamp this to get the nut off because it was jammed all the way down. And I used the end of a lightning hose, took a Phillips screwdriver and jammed the cap into that to get that to stop leaking coolant. You don't want that down in the barrel. And this push rod is bent. I can see it here with my peepers, but you might not be able to see it. But you can listen, find a flat surface. Hear that? So this is bent. So in summary, the rocker arm stud was replaced with a screw-in. Rocker was tightened too tight. The push rod had nowhere to go other than bend. And after it got done bending, it walked this stud out until the rocker got floppy enough that this just fell off to the side. And that happened basically right last night. So this one, oh, that's a bent push rod too. Look close. So that one's also bent. So I need 2 push rods. These are going to be, they're stock. They're 5/16, 7.794, I believe. They're called 7/8. So I'll call O'Reilly, get 2 of these set aside, get some Loctite and some other stuff. And in the meantime, I think guys can go have dinner. You know, why not? Wet the back neck, relax a little bit, and then we'll get back on this here. Well, the guy walked up to O'Reilly's and back again. Got about 12 miles down today, actually. Luckily, as Shania would say, these boots are made for walking. My earth pounders, they agree. On the way back, swung into Ace Hardware, you know. Picked up some 3/8 by 24 nuts. That'll help put that rocker stud in. Also picked up some Cowboy Fire hot and spicy barbecue sauce. Duh. Grabbed a t-shirt for one of my boys, Bailey. Nug Life. There's nothing like nuggets. It's kind of a impulse buy, but seems like a going to school shirt, you know. And last but not least, take notes here, fellers. Picked up a card for the wife. It's the little things. I married way up. You just gotta surprise them sometimes. Go in the card aisle and pick the cheapest one. Doesn't matter what it says. This was a graduation card. I just crossed all that out, you know, right there at the register, and then I wrote in, "Sorry, I'm an idiot and wasted money again. Derek." This should help a little bit when I get home. Probably not. Last but not least, picked up some push rods from O'Reilly and got some red Loctite, never come out juice, you know. Let's see if we can get this put back together and fired up. It's easing on 4 p.m. now already. And we still got hundreds of miles to go. Great. Skeeters are coming out. Even better. Got this double nutted up here, and that's going to help me install this thing. And as far as how much thread locker, just, you know, all of it. You want this to land on the surface of the sun if it's ever going to come out. Little quick swapperoo here. Okay, so far so good. Are you sure Hank done it this way? I don't know. Now we got her double nutted with all the come out of their juice. We'll run this all the way down and torque her till your forearm pops, right about there. And that's all the torques, and that should work. And then we got to take this one out. We're going to replace that one too, because I could tell it's bent by how it's spinning in the bore there. Then we'll fire it up and get these adjusted. This is the original bent up unit. This is a melling replacement. This is a 1-piece. This is a 3-piece. Has these ball ends pressed in. Doesn't really matter in this case getting us home. Has the same end design and the same exact length.
That's what we're looking for. And I wonder if you could see the arch in that there. I don't know. Scoot forward. Closer to the TV. Reason you can't use a bent push rod, if you're wondering, I'll just jam it in there. Use it anyway. Is these actually rotate when they're in place. And they do that to distribute the wear between the lifter and the rocker up here. If these are bent and get stuck, it's not good. I didn't design them, okay? That's what the engineer says. So these will actually rotate. One of the ways you could tell if you have a bent push rod, you could take a paint marker, put a little dash on it when it's affixed in the engine. Fire it up and let it run. You should see that just going to town, your mark up here. If it's just sitting there and barely rotating, you got a bent push rod. You're welcome. Okay, now we actually have to do work. Great. Push rods are in, and both of these rockers are on. They're set to what's called zero lash, which is where you can just rotate these and start to feel resistance between the lifter down there and the rocker. And you do that by just spinning and making sure that they don't move up and down. And I've done this in a couple videos, so search the playlist if you're wanting to look at that closely. I have a whole process setting preload and zero lash and all that. Now this one should be opening the valve right now, so when we fire this up, this is going to be really noisy, but we're going to do it while it's running. And basically we're going to tighten this until it just stops clacking, and then we're going to give it half a turn. When it just stops clacking, that's going to be zero lash. Half a turn is going to be preload on the lifter. And we'll go through all of these since we got them open. Ones that aren't making noise, we'll back off the nut until they start making noise. We'll slowly go down until they stop making noise, and then a half a turn. We'll do that on all of these over here. Get all of these set. All right. Hear that clacking? Okay, now we're getting this one to fire finally. There we go. There we go. Anything that's super thick like this, or gear oil, or whatever a guy can find. Basically, we're wanting to put something super thick in the engine here, and this thick oil will help take up that cushion between the bearings there and increase our oil pressure. We still need to get a few hundred miles out of this thing. Unfortunately, I think two of these lifters are smoke. We're hearing the same exact valve train we were when we left, which is what I was initially hearing, and I figured it was a lifter. I've heard that many a times. I gotta be mindful here, I'm wasting on a battery. I just want to try to see if I can bring this oil pressure up just a titch. I mean, 4 is better than 0, you know. 6, even better. I'll take whatever I can get, either and or whatever the gauge says, we're gonna send it. That's all back together. Got this replaced. I'm gonna go ahead and replace the post pump later filtre as well. As you can see, this is also, you know, I mean, it's good, but it's not that good. So we'll save that for later. For something else, we'll put another one in there. I gotta put some air in this tire up here. She's slowly leaking on me. Maybe a valve stem, I don't know. Still a socket on the hood. Whoops. Everything else picked up. Let's see, generator fixed via battery, check. We got a rocker stud fixed, check. Push rod in, yep, ×2. Valve train, done, check. Earl topped off, yep. Rust water topped off, yep. Fuel filter is in. Got to put just a shot of air in this thing. we'll go fill up, and I guess we're back on the highway, and I'm gonna stay on it as long as I can. You can ignore that. It's just steam cleaning. 700 miles in a 61-year-old rig with a bed full of cargo. It did pretty good. And if you think about it, it's really futuristic. If you look at the styling, it has keyless start, auto lane change. It even has displacement on demand. It's got everything. So you hate El Caminos more than any other car in the world. What do you think about this one?
This is really kind of cool, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'm surprised. I didn't know what this looked like before you went to get it.
Yeah, so those 59 and 60 had really unique styling. They called them bat wings. So maybe I can keep it for a little bit?
It almost looks like this should be the front window and this should be the rear.
Wow.
Like, but really, if you like look at it from like this way, right?
Yeah, it's just aerodynamic in any direction, you know?
I mean, it's pretty cool, actually.
Well, 700 miles after 15 years, I think this rig deserves a nickname, but I'm going to leave that up to you fellers and fellettes. Bleep bloop that down there below. And before I forget, which I always do, common question, where's a guy or gal get their own vice grip garage, forehead awning, or back rag? There's these and an assortment of other items over at vicegripgarage.com. Thank you in advance for your support and kindness. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you next time.
So You're kind of late.
Well, let's just say I hit some traffic.
Yeah, sure.